Hello and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week I'm joined by Drabbers and Barber.
Hello.
Oi, oi.
And I'll hand things over to Rich for the hot topic. Drabbers?
Okay, so this week's hot topic, as regular listeners will know, we've talked about various beer competitions, beer events that seem to be going on, a bit wacky and a bit wild. So we're going to be visiting something called the Beer Mile Classic, which is a mile race up in Scotland, which every 400 metres you have to down a bottle of beer over 5%.
Wow, that sounds like a recipe for success.
That sounds like it gets started a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets finished a lot.
Well, what I really like is the organisers of these events have some high ambitions for where they're going to be holding this event, and they've said in a European standard, like Olympic venue sort of thing, for running, they would like to hold the Beer Mile Classic.
I mean, it would be very true to its form to go back to old, Olympic times, go back to in front of the Parthenon, the very first Olympics, because we all know the very first Olympians were pissed the whole time on wine and whatever, whilst running around doing their javelins whilst they were all naked, because of course they did their sports naked back then. So maybe the Scottish company are trying to bring that all the way back.
I beg your pardon. You did say it's a mile, right? So every 400
yeah, a
metres.
mile.
So that's only 4, right? Because it's going to be 1,600 metres roughly.
Yeah. So,
not that bad.
But reading into it, apparently it's very, very hard to keep because you're downing the beer as quick as you can to then continue the race to win the Beer Mile Classic.
Now, as a point of just for clarity, people are stood still whilst they're downing these beers. They're not expected to down them while sprinting, right?
No. So you have to down your beer, and then if you leave 1/3 of the beer, that like any foam or anything like that, 1/3 of it, you're instantly disqualified. So you have to down the whole thing and then sprint off.
Now, this is an event that's been created by people in the pub, isn't it? Like, this is what this sounds
100%.
of.
I'll tell you what we can do. Like, let's do a run, but we'll get hammered on the way. We'll do. How hammered do you think? How hammered do you think we should get? Oh, like proper hammered, Don't try to run unless you've downed it. That's not.
But what I really enjoyed, because they weren't able to do the event last year due to COVID and everything like that, they did their own virtual one. So
What?
So they did a virtual one. So they had people running a mile, and every 400 metres they were downing a beer on this mile, and there's just loads of videos of people running and then throwing up because they're trying to down these beers whilst running, which I find even funnier.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm quite honest, this doesn't sound like Drink Responsibly UK has got involved, or this doesn't sound like an officially sanctioned, from the brewing industry event.
If you are doing it virtually, you've got to go and get on a treadmill in, your isolation workstation. And it crossed over in my mind a little bit with, have you ever watched virtual horse racing from Japan? I mean, that's a hoot. But
Yeah.
if it was also that, you can somehow combine the two, I think that would be quite entertaining.
I'm not going to lie, I would love to see this event in the Olympics. People who have trained all years and years and years for their chance to be in the Beer Mile Classic. I think it would be a winner. It would attract a different audience to the Olympics.
I think, if I'm quite honest, I like this as like its own fringe thing that's nothing to do with any proper governing body. Because let's face it, it's never going to get an official sanction. And I quite like that it's some sort of fringe thing, like cult classic that kind of follows, that gets this reputation, this cult following, rather than an officially sanctioned, like you've got, all these different countries like Andorra getting involved.
Yeah, you can imagine the representative from the sport turning up to the IOC. Is it IOC, the International Olympic Committee? They're all there in their suits and ties, done up to 11. They're planning the next Olympics. And the representative from the Beer Mile Classic turns up. It's like, here's what I need. Here's what I need from you guys for the next Olympics. Yeah, don't worry about any of the normal stuff. I don't want any of my anyone winning the gold medal getting a little bunch of flowers at the end. They want another beer. That's all they need.
Yeah, you get a 6-pack.
You get a 6-pack for the winner. It does raise a question, like, how many people do they get at these events?
Well, there's not official numbers that I can see that have been given, but from what I can tell, there is a fair few beers placed on tables all the way around, and it looks like there's about 30, 40 beers on about 5 different tables. So it looks like there's a fair amount of people doing it.
What do you think? A couple of hundred people, or less than maybe like 100 people or something?
Well, I'm going to suggest we should possibly do a live show from there, because that could be a really interesting road trip.
I also, I mean, I'm a little bit like this. It's a really weirdly, stupidly arrogant thing. Whenever I'm watching something like, Ninja Warrior or like Total Wipeout, I always look at those things and I go, yeah, I could like smash that. I'd absolutely dominate it. I'd do it really easily and I'd set the best time. I think I know I'm wrong when I say that. And I've listened to the description of this and gone, yeah, I'll probably win that.
Do that.
However, maybe we should enter as a relay. We do the 4 of us, that way we do a 400-metre leg each. Yeah. Just about do a bottle each.
Although in saying that, Simo is very fast actually. Although his distance was 200 metres, I think it was, but I think he could smash a 400. But it does make it's got me very reminiscent, very strong vibes of the Medoc Marathon in France, in the Medoc region in France. And this is a marathon which takes place through the Medoc region, the wine region of France. And you basically run from vineyard to vineyard and stop and have wine and cheese when you get to a vineyard.
There's no trip to Bordeaux would quite be complete without having a bash at that. Although it's every August, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and honestly, I've been trying to get tickets a couple of years before COVID hit, so it might even be worse now, but it was very hard to get tickets. You had to be right on the dot. As soon as the first release of tickets came out, like get in there. You've got to be ready to go, pull the trigger, basically.
I mean, like, running a marathon's hard enough, and eating loads of wine and cheese can be quite hard. Like, if you're really going for it. And combining the two with wine and then curdling cheese and wine whilst running a marathon, I can't think of anything worse, personally.
It sounds like you're describing an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
Just stick to wine and cheese, mate. I reckon that'd be easier.
Yeah, I'll probably stick to that bit.
But then technically that is training though, right? If you're just having the wine and cheese at home, that is training for this Medoc Marathon.
Hours and hours of training, yeah.
Similar to how we train for this, the beer mile classic. We're training for it. That's it.
Okay, so I've got someone who's running in the London Marathon this year, so I'm going to go up and support them because I'm a really, really nice guy. But I've decided whilst they're running the marathon, I'm going to do a similar sort of thing, but with pubs all the way along the route. So.
Do it. I mean, you might have to start off a few days in advance.
Yeah.
Right, let's kick off all things Coors.
Our pursuit of hoppiness. Yeah, hoppiness.
So as I said in the intro, Coors is owned by none other than Molson Coors.
Classic.
So as we've touched on before, Molson Coors is the American-Canadian behemoth. That's the second largest beer company in the world. Although they have recently changed their name and their kind of public listing to be Molson Coors Brewing, beverage company. So they're like kind of opening up their kind of remit outside of just beer. But who's wants to kick us off with a bit of a factoid about these guys?
So, to start off then, the first fact, because surprisingly, within research, there's a hell of a lot of facts about Coors Brewing, so I think we're going to throw some at you throughout the thing. But first one, it's nearly 150 years old, and it was started by a German brewer.
Dankeschön.
Now, what was this German brewer's name?
So the German brewer's name was, I'm not going to lie, it's not aged well, the name, Adolf Coors.
Oh.
Now that is a name you don't hear very often anymore.
I thought you were going to say Coors Schwarzenegger. Oh, sorry, he was Austrian, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah. So Adolf Coors, the German brewer who started up.
Yeah, wasn't there also? I think he might have been like a business partner. Wasn't there a Schuler?
Yeah, there was a
Schuler.
business partner who threw in $18,000 at the start of it all to get the brewery up and running.
In 1870s, that's a lot of cash, actually, isn't it? That's
a hell of a lot of capital.
That's quite a few dineros.
But have you noticed, since doing this, a lot of American breweries seem to start with a German brewer.
Yeah.
There's been a few that have the influence of the German brewing system, which is a solid brewing system, has definitely infiltrated America.
Definitely carry on with that in a second, but just to confirm that $18,000 in today's money back in 1870 in today's money is $383,000.
Oh, that's more than I make in a year.
Like that's a large sum of money to start something off, to get some capital going.
So he has some serious financial backing.
Yeah.
So this German Adolf Coors starting in Colorado of all places. Now, what can people tell me, or what do you guys think of when you think of Colorado?
Mountains. South Park.
Mountains. South Park.
Park.
Located in the mountains. So it's not too surprising. Coors as a kind of a brand backing is all based around the Rockies, which is the mountain range in the Colorado.
Oh, what was that really good big word about the label? And it's they changed the mountains change colour on the label, not in real life.
Yeah, well, they go for it. What do you think? They changed colour?
Trans temperature coloraceroids.
We talked about this, didn't we? There was another beer that does it as well, and I can't remember what the other beer is.
Yeah, I told you guys about this one.
Homo? No, because it wouldn't be homo, but it would be.
We really nerded out.
Chromatic.
Photochromatic. There you go.
Let's get the first two syllables. I'm home and dry.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. So if you go and find Coors on the shop front, this is outside of a fridge, you'll see this fantastic image of the mountains, very detailed images of the mountains. However, if you get it out of the fridge, what colour are those mountains?
Is it blue? I think it might be blue.
Blue?
I think it's blue.
They are blue. You're absolutely spot on. So they use photochromatic ink within the can design itself, so that when it's cold, because this is their whole proposition, is like, it's as cold as the Rockies, reinforcing the fact that you need to drink this beer cold, the mountains themselves will turn blue. So yeah, literally showing you when it's good to drink.
Whammy.
What? Never.
Ooh, burn.
Shots fired.
What's your beef with Coors, Rich?
We'll come back to the taste later. It's fine.
So maybe we want to kind of jump into a bit more of the history then. We touched on that.
Did I hear that something to do with that they did all right, even despite a period of prohibition, sort of in the middle of that 150 year lifespan?
Yeah.
But the founder didn't come out the other side quite like the beer.
No. I was going to say, during Prohibition, they did expand to other products such as malted milk, which sounds awful, and cement. So that's pretty cool. Cement needed cement everywhere. Yeah, they expanded into cement, which I've got time for. Everyone needs cement.
Two things that are easily confused. But with
malted milk.
Cement. So then they made it on the same site.
Yeah.
Really.
None of the buildings are staying up.
And you had a load of workers going, now what am I working on today? Malted milk or cement?
A lot of construction workers who suddenly started putting on quite a lot of weight. Have you been at the cement again?
Licking the wall. There's so many cats here.
Oh dear. Yes, well done. Yes, well done. That was good. I see what you did there.
So as you American company, survive, founded before the age of Prohibition, survived Prohibition, although, as Matt alluded to, unfortunately, Adolf did not survive Prohibition. So there's apparently he committed suicide, so not to bring it down to, the 5th of June, 1929. So apparently it's because of, what was going on with his company through Prohibition, but there is speculation that he was pushed. So, a bit of corporate conspiracy going on here. Maybe a mystery that hasn't been solved. Right, Drabs, do you want to do your Prohibition story?
Yes. So apparently, tied in with all of this Prohibition time, is we've all seen them. Have you guys watched Boardwalk Empire? All about the Prohibition and all of that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic series stuff. But apparently, the film Smokey and the Bandit was based around Coors and the CEO of Coors and him trying to smuggle Coors across.
Smokey and the Bandit, wasn't that Big Mustache? Oh, what's his name?
Burt Reynolds.
Selleck. Burt Reynolds, yes.
Burt Reynolds. I'm not going to
mustache.
lie. I'm modelling my inner Burt Reynolds right now. It's
we're all wondering why.
But apparently the film is based on the antics of the CEO and some stuff that he got up to. There's a fantastic article, I believe, is on Vineyard that explains the whole thing. I would love to. We could probably do a whole podcast just on the smuggling of Coors beer across. But apparently it was based on the CEO and his efforts to try and get it out and around in Prohibition, and supposedly Smokey and the Bandit is based on that, and the smuggling with their fancy cars and big mustaches, which I think is pretty cool.
Who doesn't love big cars and mustaches?
Well,
fancy cars and big mustaches.
I'll tell you who does. A lot of beer lovers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Go on, Joe. Chuck another fact at us.
Another fact. So we talked about the mountains. They are actually real. So the iconic mountains of the Coors beer label are of Wilson Peak in the San Juan Mountains, 11 miles west of Telluride in Colorado. Apparently it's a very popular skiing resort, and it's featured very heavily in advertising by Jeep. So there you go. There's a couple of things in there about the mountains.
Yeah, I've always wanted to hear other people pronounce the name of that place in Colorado, because you want to say Telluride, isn't it? But it's, yeah.
just talking about interesting marketing and stuff like that, because you mentioned Jeep and all that sort of stuff. All of the Jeeps have like a secret Easter egg animal hiding on all of their bodywork.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so each brand of Jeep will have a different animal, like a plastic mould of an animal hidden somewhere on their
I have heard
chassis
this.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's quite cool. So there's like YouTube videos and stuff like that of people finding the secret animal, but each brand of Jeep comes out with a new one, which I think is really cool.
Why do they do that?
Oh, because of like the advertising sort of thing. You think there's enough people know. It's like the secret items you get in McDonald's and Starbucks and all that sort of stuff. People are like, I'm then going to film a load of videos of me searching a Jeep because it's got something cool. It's a really simple thing to do for free addiffusing all over the world, I reckon.
Is that right? And do you think, and it's just for their, like, because it creates buzz, people talk about it and stuff? Because I've heard of similar things for different sort of reasons. So JCB have this habit of whenever they unveil a new type of digger or machine, what they'll do is that they'll put like completely redundant like grooves and like chunks drilled into it, so that basically if someone tries to like carbon copy it, i.e. Chinese companies, that they can tell if they've carbon copied this machine, because there'll be things that are why would you ever need that? Yeah, completely unnecessary.
Really?
To show that you've just stolen their idea.
That's really cool.
And that actually happened. My brother-in-law worked for JCB. And he said there was a big story at the time, it must have been about 6 years ago, where they were at this big trade show and they unveiled, this Chinese company, competitors JCB, unveiled this new digger that was a carbon copy, quite literally. And they were able to go and show the rest of the people at the trade show that it was a stolen idea, basically.
Nice, like that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's a really cool.
Give him a bit of kick up the backside for basically cheating.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell everyone at work that fact tomorrow. I really enjoyed that.
And I'm going to tell people about your Jeep one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, prepare yourselves to be blown out of the waters, boys, because at the risk of repeating what I may have said on another episode, but I can't remember because I was probably drunk, have you ever spotted, on the theme of hidden animals, have you ever spotted the one on Toblerone?
Oh, no. Okay.
Talking about mountains.
Yeah,
exactly. Toblerone. You guys aren't even ready for this. You know, on the Toblerone bar, there's like a picture of the mountains at one end.
Yeah.
There is a bear.
There's a hobbit.
There's a bear. No, but there's a dragon. No, there's a bear hidden in that sort of, is it monochromatic? We're lucky chromatic today, aren't we? Image of the mountain. I mean, if you're anything like me, you obviously have 4 or 5 bars of Toblerone ready to hand at any given time. But basically, Toblerone is invented. What also was invented is made in the Swiss canton of Valais, and if you have a look closely, in the middle of the mountain sort of symbol, there's a bear, and it's one of those things that once you've seen, you can't unsee.
Okay.
And that's it.
Well,
that is a good factoid. There you go.
Next time you see a packet of Toblerone, oh boy, are you in for a treat.
Welcome to the podcast of hidden things you can find on items you never knew.
We've got 3 or 4 good offshoots now. The one about trains was going to be quite good.
Yeah. No, I preferred the one about nunneries, like talking about different nunneries and monasteries throughout the age.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get back to the task. Let's get back to the task at hand.
Yeah.
Bringing it back a little bit, gentlemen. We know Coors is not known as Coors these days. They're connected with Molson. Do we know when that happened?
2000s, I want to say.
2000 is correct.
2005.
It's a very good answer, but it's not the one we're looking for. Do you know who else they may have combined with? So actually, it's probably worth pointing out that at the time when Molson and Coors became Coles and Moores in 2005, I know, that was good, wasn't it? They became the 7th largest brewer by volume. I think everyone knows they're even bigger than that now. The 2nd largest brewer in America. So who did they hook up with to create that beer volume offspring?
Well, I don't know, because you only know of Molson Coors as their name, so that's only 2 companies. So you're saying there's a so there's a 3rd company that they merged with to become the 2nd largest.
I'll give you a bit of a clue. Have you been checking your watch?
No.
It's a really hard clue, that.
Yeah. I've got an Apple Watch.
Yeah, no. So, it's really convoluted because the company that I'm thinking of, right? There was a campaign for this other beer that was in the US. It was called Miller Time.
Oh, so SAB Miller.
There you go. Joe's got it. Yeah, that's it.
So they merged with SAB Miller to become the 2nd largest company. That's quite a roundabout way of telling that story.
Yeah.
I don't like, why do our stories have to be linear? Molson Coors, SAB Miller.
Why don't we go off on a meandering tangent about something else?
Anyway, the original American beer power couple, Molson Coors and SAB Miller.
So I wonder then my thinking is that why Molson Coors didn't become Molson Coors SAB Miller or something along those lines is because actually SAB Miller in 2007 was like going under, so they were probably shedding off and selling off their businesses.
Okay, yeah.
So actually, a lot of the breweries were basically buying up SAB Miller's like holdings and brands around the world. So it wasn't. That's it all again, basically taking them at a good value, basically, at a cheaper price, because they weren't like a main competitor at that point. They were like, oh, we're in financial troubles, we're going under. Great, well, I'll get a discount on your on buying your American business, for example.
Well, didn't I read that it makes up for more than 30% of the beer sales in America?
What Coors does?
Coors does, yeah, or something like that.
That's phenomenal.
Something stupid.
I thought I heard something about 25%.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're quite right, Joe. And actually, it brings on to Joe. You're not Joe. You're Trappers. I'm sorry.
I'm just as good looking.
You were with that mustache. I think you've just stepped it up a notch. However, I think the point is that actually 30 probably was where they were at before in terms of their market share, as I did read earlier on. However, in more recent times, it's taking a bit of a step back. So there's been a bit of a change, which I think Joe's going to tell you about a little bit later on. But I think they have found that they are starting to go into a little bit of decline. In fact, recently they even announced that they were going to drop 400 or 500 jobs and potentially mothball the head office in Denver and move to it's an office in Denver and actually going to have the headquarters in Chicago now. So that might have a bit of an impact on what you sort of know and think of with Coles Moores, with what we were talking about earlier with their with the mountains, the Rockies. But yeah, they found that they're going a little bit downhill in terms of the sales, which I believe they also push to the popularity of these other beverages. So your hard seltzers and your kombucha and that sort of thing.
Do you guys think? Oh, just as a question in general, do you guys think we're going to see a decline in these big beer company sales, such as your Budweisers, Foster's, Heineken? Because we've explored a lot of popular beers that are considerably better than these big brands that are out there. And there's a lot more breweries coming through. It's become a lot, especially in the pandemic time. People have been exploring more with what they drink and everything. But do you think we're going to see, like with Coors, a steady decline in these popular beer brands and people not buying them as much?
So I think taking a step back, the beer industry as a general has been on a downward trend for probably about 10 years now. Like declining sales for about 10 years. You know, as you said, there's new entrants into the market, you know, not just, we're not talking about like different companies within beer, but we're talking about beer as a category as its whole. You know, consumers are looking for something different. They're downsizing and changing their drinking habits, which is why you've got different things like wine spritzers and, you know, CBD infused drinks coming into the market. You know, you've got all these different players. When it comes to different companies, you know, the big players are always going to be big players because we're talking about millions of hectoliters. You know, and, you know, we're talking about some of the biggest players in the world. That's why these mergers are happening, you know, or have happened over however many years. Basically, the big players keep large by buying other players. So the opportunity area is really for these the smaller kind of craft brewers, as we call them, the new craft brewers, is to basically get themselves to be a very reputable sized brand and then sell out basically to one of these big players. We saw this with Camden Town in the UK, you know, with Anheuser-Busch, you know, they made a pretty penny doing that. You know, but that's where I think a lot of the beer market is going. You know, it is declining, but when I'm saying it's declining, it's declining by about, you know, % each year, which is not insignificant because that's, you know, still a lot of money that's going down the toilet, but it's not like, oh my God, beer's going away. Beer's leaving us. You know, we're not going to have these big beer companies anymore. No, they're here to stay. It's just, it's going to look, the landscape is going to look ever so slightly different, you know, over a period when you're tracking it over like a 5-10 year period, basically.
It'd have to be pretty seismic, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Any changes? Yeah, beer's finished. What?
Yeah. Sorry, boys, your podcast is over.
Back to nunneries then, I guess.
To give you a bit of context, I suppose, you know, we talked about the hard seltzer market and how fast that's grown. You know, that was growing. You know, that's now, you know, that's I know it's worth like billions now. That's still only worth like 2% of the total beer market in total. You know, and that's not insignificant over a couple of years, which has happened, but, you know, that's going to plateau. It's not going to be that this is now the new beer. You know, it's not going to be that people only exclusively drink hard seltzers. Like, people are going to flip back and forth.
There's also that bit of a hardcore, isn't there, that will stick with what I know.
Well, it just shows that beer, like most industries, has to continually evolve. That's why we have new innovations in the beer category. We have different breweries doing different beers. We have opportunity for new brewers to come in, and that's always going to be the case. In my opinion, it's, you know, declining beer market has created a much more enjoyable beer experience for us consumers.
And that's why we have bubblegum beer.
Yeah, exactly. But talking about innovations and change, obviously Barbara set the stage there that Molson Coors was going through quite a rough period, or like a declining sales, and having the implications of that. But the big implication, I guess, on the consumer lifestyle that you'll probably see. So I know of Coors as Coors Light. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, that you know Coors Light as the brand. Yeah. So this brand that you now pick up, Coors, is an intentional change. It changed in 2021, so it's very recent, actually, recent history.
Okay, yeah.
In March of 2021, and it's a multi-million pound investment in the UK specifically, so it's still yet to kind of really impact the US, but it will happen in the US at some point. But Coors Light is at 30% of the beer market, so it's going to take time before they change it. And really, it's to try and, kind of drive that ongoing growth in the premium 4% beer category, which, if I'm quite honest, premium 4% beer category sounds like a juxtaposition. Doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah. Not a lot of the other premium beers are the ones that style themselves as premium beers are 4%, are they? I say not many. Any. That's what I probably mean by that.
So it's funny that you guys mentioned that about, I think this will nicely lead us on to talk about the taste, but they've been saying that actually the rebrand, the reason why they've done it isn't because they're declining so much in the UK, it's because they're actually growing in popularity in the UK. So they are the leaders in the UK for this premium 4% beer category. So more people drink Coors now than any other 4% lager, basically.
I did not
really?
I don't get out much though, so
I just don't think it's a great beer. Like there are other beers at this level and around this level that I much prefer, and I don't think it brings anything special to the table. Not in its flavour. I quite like the marketing they do. I think that's cool with the can, and I can't take that away from them. And I quite like the name. Coors is a cool name. But the taste just doesn't do anything for me. It just tastes watery. There's no pizzazz.
How do you rate it on against the other premium 4% beers then? So if you're thinking premium 4%, what we talk about? We're talking about Foster's, Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser.
Like, if you can see my facial expression, that would probably describe it. Like,
Let's map it out. What do we got? We've got Coors in this category.
Yeah.
You've got Foster's. You've got Budweiser.
Yeah. I would prefer... So, Budweiser would be my number one.
Okay.
If I was going to do it. Then Foster's, but that's probably tied into more memories of one drinking Foster's when I was younger and a bit more nostalgia. And then just Coors is just drinking... I've drunk 2 cans whilst recording this episode. And...
Just to give it a proper review.
I had to really give it a review. And it's just not doing anything for me. I'm not going core. I really want a Coors.
I was just going to say, I just didn't. Those names we mentioned, I've not heard of them. I just didn't think of them as premium necessarily. Again, I don't really know what my affiliation is to Budweiser that makes me go like Drabbers. I think I like the taste of Budweiser. I quite like that, but equally, it's making me think if everyone is calling themselves premium, I'm going to start my own beer and just call it crap beer. And be like, bang average beer. Bow. That's what it's going to be called. And then just under promise and over deliver. Everyone's going to be like, well, I'm going to try a bang average beer. And then they're going to go, I would even describe it as good. No matter what it tastes of. They're just going to go, I thought, it was called bang average. I thought it was going to be rubbish. Whereas actually now I've tasted it, well, I think I'd have another one, in fact. There you go. I need to patent that. That's happening.
Do it. It's a real reverse psychology. Under promise, over deliver.
You might enjoy it. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's see. So last thing, I mean, for me, I guess, it doesn't too surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that much that Coors is on that list of those premium 4% beers.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's very popular in the UK, I think is very much driven because of the marketing spend and push that they're doing. The reason that Coors has got so big in the UK, there's been a response by AB InBev. They released Bud Light, which never existed in the UK. They released that probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So that was because Coors was getting traction in the UK. They were like, right, we need a new product to come in, and they put loads of spend behind it. It was all about sports, as they own in the US. They own sports in the US as a positioning for Bud Light, and in the UK it just didn't really take, because we have our football beer, which is Carling. We've done Carling. Rugby is Guinness, and a couple of different other ales, stout type drinks, and cricket, it's whatever you can get your hands on. So, really, it's, I think when you're thinking in that category, actually, Bud Light kind of missed the mark in that sense.
Yeah.
And so what's left? Well, it's the second largest beer company in the world. It's Coors. And, it's a solid 4% beer. It is better than Foster's in my personal opinion. Although I have the nostalgia with Foster's, it's not a good nostalgia. so I'm quite happy to have a new entrant in the 4% premium market, which is Coors.
Yes, I can also, in my mind's eye, I can see lots of cans of Coors Light in when a fridge is not available, a big plastic bucket full of ice that's eventually turned to water, and all the other stuff that's been put in there has gone.
But there'll always be a Coors at the bottom.
That should be their new slogan. There'll always be a Coors at the bottom.
Yeah, the advert is a bloke reaching in. He's getting his hands sopping wet because he's just reached into a bucket of water. He pulls out a Foster's, pulls out a Coors, looks at the camera, and kind of just puts the Foster's back and walks off.
I mean, we should pitch it to them. I think that might resonate with a lot of people.
Coors, better than Foster's. Take it. Win's a win. You can only play the team in front of you.
It can't be better than Foster's. It'll be not as bad as Foster's.
Yeah.
Or Coors, the last drink always left at the party.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't do that, Bang Average Beer or Bab or coming soon, Bab Light. I'm taking that basically.
Bab Light. Bab. All right. Well, that's been Coors.
Yeah.
Let's go. And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
Barber,
and Simo.
Goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com.
And watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.